Started. How are you? My name is Jamie Lee. I'm a certified coach. I am a leadership and negotiation coach. Since 2011, I have been leading negotiation workshops for working women. And I have transitioned to working one-on-one with private coaching clients, which has been great for me this year in the year of COVID-19. But anyways, I am so excited to share with you these 3 steps because these are the 3 steps that I have seen in my experience as a coach, seeing that this is where the overlap between the best of interest-based negotiation strategies and leadership skills come into play. And I also noticed that I keep teaching these 3 steps over and over and over again to all of my private coaching clients. So I wanted to share them with you so that you can best advocate for you. Because we want our advocacy to be effective, as in to create the result that we want. And another thing I just want to say is sometimes people, especially very accomplished, intelligent women that I coach, they tend to question, wait, am I ambitious enough? Am I an ambitious woman? And sometimes there is even a negative connotation around thinking about ambitious women. So I just want to address that, okay? Here's my definition of an ambitious woman. An ambitious woman wants to grow. So do you want to grow? Do you want to grow professionally? Do you want to grow personally? Do you just want to grow your income, your impact, your title? Any of it? Or maybe your definition of growth looks just different, and that's okay. A lot of highly accomplished women, we want to be able to balance our lives with our family and work. We want to be able to balance our personal growth with our professional growth. Sometimes we want to work less because we've been working really hard to get to where we are now, and we're like, okay, this level of working is not really sustainable. So what I really want to advocate for is a more balanced life. I want to work less hours, make more impact, make more money, right? Be more effective at what I do so I can have the life that I truly want. I want to have a meaningful career and a balanced life. And if that's you, that is cool. That is really awesome. You are still very ambitious. All right, so let's get started. So I want to say, my experience in teaching these workshops to women of all different industries, skills, what I have found to be the most effective way is to, encourage my workshop attendees to challenge themselves, to not just like passively absorb the information that I'm going to share with you, but ask yourself, like, how does this apply to me? What do I want to test? I'm going to share with you, the most common 3A trap. I'm going to explain what that means and how it shows up in our self-advocacy and the impact of that. I'm going to share with you the 3 steps that you can take to overcome it and do better so you have a better outcome in your self-advocacy. And I'm also going to share with you some extra fun things. I'm going to share with you the 5 key elements that you would want to see in every crucial conversation, every difficult conversation. I'm also going to share with you, what is the one question that I challenge my clients to ask and it blows their minds and then totally up levels their results. I'm going to share that with you. I'm also going to share what is the one formula, one simple formula that makes you unstoppable in your career growth. I mean, I'm going to share with you a lot of things, but I don't want you to just passively consume this information because it's so easy for a lot of information to just go out the other end of the year, right? Come in one end and go out the other end. So I want to invite you to ask yourself, okay, how does this apply to me? What can I take away? What can I test for myself? Jamie says these strategies and these steps work, but I really want to test it for myself, right? So look for what is that one thing that you want to take away implement, test, and evaluate whether it truly does work for you. I will guarantee that if you do that, your results will change, right? But it's a commitment you have to make to yourself. And then I want you to test it, implement it, come back and tell me all about it, okay? All right, so let's move on. Okay, so I want to invite you to think about 6 months to 2 years from now. Okay, I made a typo. I was thinking like 6 months to a year from now. And then I wrote 2021, 2022. And then I'm like, okay, that's 2 years from now. All right, let's go with 2 years from now. 6 months to 2 years from now. Okay, where do you want to be in your career? What would that look like if you land where you want to land in your career? And if you're not sure, if you're like, I don't know, I don't really know if I want to stay in this job. I don't know if I want to become senior director or VP. I don't know. I just know that I want something different, or I want more time to myself. I want to feel more fulfilled. I want to feel more confident. I just want to feel more comfortable in my skin, or I just want to be surrounded by a team of colleagues that I respect and they respect me and we have this mutual respect. That is all cool, right? It doesn't have to be like really specific, just like a general idea, general direction where you want to take your career. That is fine, right? Where do you want to be? Maybe you want to work in a different location. I have a client who wants to work abroad. So maybe you want to be in a different space. Maybe you want to be in a different country. Maybe you want to be working part-time. You want to spend some time at home. That is all cool. Or maybe you just want to have a different feeling, right? More fulfilled, more comfortable in your own skin, more calm, more grounded, more relaxed. Okay, that's all cool. So I just want you to envision that and just identify, okay, what direction do I want to take my career in? Okay, and feel free to share. If you have some ideas, feel free to use the Q&A box and share, where do you want to be 6 months to, let's say 2 years from now, 2022, okay? And once you have an idea of where you want to be directionally or emotionally, right? In general, broad strokes, then you want to ask yourself, okay, in order for me to shift my career in that direction, like what is the one conversation that I may want to have in the immediate to short term? Okay, maybe I want to have a conversation with my boss about, hey, you know, I'm really interested in working abroad. I'm really interested in becoming part of that innovation team. Because they're taking on interesting projects and I want to grow my skill set. I want to stretch myself. I want to take on more challenges. And then I want to ask you, what is one conversation that you're avoiding with your boss? Yeah, what's one conversation that you know you need to have or you want to have, but you're avoiding? Okay. All right. So once you get clear in your own mind about what that is, I want to invite you to, you know, think about the rest of this this webinar and think about how can I apply what I'm hearing, what Jamie is sharing with me to do this better, maybe to stop avoiding it and start engaging, right? That could be the first step, okay? All right, so how does self-advocacy happen? Where does effective self-advocacy really happen? I wanna invite you to, if you have some ideas about that, you could put it into the Q&A box and share that with me, okay? Where do you think effective self-advocacy happens? I'll wait a minute and see, to see what your thoughts are before I share what I think. I kind of gave you the answer in the question that I'm asking, by the way. That's a hint. Okay, Eloise shares being aware of what I even want to advocate for. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, that would be the first thing that you would want to know before you advocate, before you engage, right? But my question was, where does effective advocacy actually happen? Where? Okay, I'm gonna share my answer. Okay. Effective self-advocacy happens inside conversations. That's it. Conversations. Conversations you have with your peers, right? Conversations you have with your colleagues about, hey, I'm thinking about going for this promotion. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think will help me get there? Conversations that you have with your boss. I'm really interested in that promotion. Conversation you have with other managers in your organization if you're interested in a lateral move. That's another conversation. Right? And if you are, like one of my clients, interested in joining the innovation team, you want to engage in conversations with people who've been in that team, managers who lead that team, and to understand, okay, what does it take for me to join that team? So effective self-advocacy always happens inside conversations, okay? And the reason I want to emphasize this is like, we often think it's like maybe tactics, maybe like, knowing the right words or doing certain things perfect. But actually, it just happens in conversations, in this really mundane, this thing that we all have been engaging in all our lives. And so I want you to think about, what do we want in a conversation? I am in New York. I was born in South Korea, and I grew up in America. And so I have a very Western perspective. And in my Western perspective, I think these are the things that you want to see in every conversation. So I want you to think about the most recent conversation that you had with, let's say, your friend, where you felt like really relaxed, calm, and you felt there was a genuine sense of connection, and there was mutual respect. It was like easy to have this conversation. Okay, so in that, when you think about that particular conversation that you had, were you open and curious, right? It wasn't like, oh, I'm just like narrowly minded about what's got to happen in this conversation, in this exchange. You're not really curious about what they're saying. No, you came open, relaxed, curious. So like, I'm really fascinated. I'm really interested in this friend. I'm curious, how she's doing or how he's doing. I'm curious, like, what are they thinking, right? And the purpose of that conversation was you were trying to arrive at a better understanding of where they are. Right? You just want to better understand what your friend is thinking, what they're going through, what they really want. You really just wanted to understand, okay? And you were trying to connect with this person, like make a genuine connection with another human being. And at the same time, like if you had an ask, right? You try to connect what you want, right? The ask that you had based on the understanding that you have about what this person genuinely wants or where this person genuinely is in their life, right? You try to connect your ask to your understanding of them, okay? And then once you made that ask, you try to, brainstorm. Like it was kind of like a no big deal if they were like, oh, oh, thanks so much for asking that favor. Let's say you ask them, hey, would you like to come over and, just hang out, because I'm kind of sick and tired of just only seeing my life partner, and I trust you, so why don't you come over and why don't we just hang out? We just assume like you and I are both COVID safe with each other, yeah? And your friend's like, oh, that's so nice, but you know what? I'm not really feeling up to that. And so then you brainstorm. Okay, that's okay. It's all right. Maybe we have another Zoom chat. Yeah, maybe we just plan to do something together in 2 months from now when hopefully things have calmed down. I'm just making stuff up, but like you were willing to brainstorm with your friend, even when your friend's like, thanks for asking, but no, right? And sometimes based on this brainstorm session, in the give and take of idea, you arrive at next steps. Like you arrived at an agreement about what to do. Sometimes, right? Sometimes you have a conversation, you don't even need to get to next steps. All you wanted to do was show up open and curious, have a better understanding. That was the only purpose. And having that exchange of words was enough, and you didn't need to arrive at next steps. But sometimes you do, right? And so these are the 5 elements that you want to have in a conversation. Okay, so I want you to take note of this, write it down. Okay, because we're going to come back to this. We're going to come back and see how this really does apply even in self-advocacy. Okay, even when you are having that difficult conversation with your boss, or maybe your boss's boss, or a boss of a different team. Okay, all right, so having said that, why do so many people say that advocating for themselves? Why do so many smart, ambitious, accomplished women say that advocating for themselves is hard? Why is it difficult? Why? Okay, so I'm going to share with you my thoughts on that. The reason why advocating for yourself in conversations feels difficult simply because of emotions. Certain emotions running high, especially when you have doubt, when you feel anxious, or maybe you're feeling kind of angry with yourself or with your boss, right? And that could be because number 2, you have conflicting opinions. Let's say you go to your boss and you say, I'd like to be considered for that promotion. And the boss says, well, I appreciate you asking, but I don't think you're ready. Yeah, this happened to my client recently. And so you have a conflicting opinion, right? But we all know that people are entitled to their opinions. Really, what makes this difficult is the meaning that you assign to your conversation partner, to your boss, having a different opinion than you. Like, what would you make it mean if your boss is like, thanks for asking, but I don't think you're ready? Maybe you make it mean, oh, they don't appreciate me. Maybe you make it mean, I did it wrong, right? And then this fuels the anger and the anxiety and the doubt that you feel, which was already making engaging in this conversation really difficult. And also, sometimes these conversations, I want to say the reason why it's difficult is because there are high stakes, right? And stakes can be both perceived and real. If you are engaging in a conversation about headcount or budget resources for the project that you're running, and what's at stake is whether you get that budget allocation, whether you get that additional headcount. It's a real thing. What's at stake, right? Headcount, people, money, real things are at stake, right? And so when real things are at stake, sometimes this fuels more anxiety, right? More stress. But sometimes the stakes can be even perceived. When we perceive that your reputation is at risk, you're thinking, well, I don't want to engage in this conversation, or I'm afraid to engage in this conversation because I don't want to create the perception that I am greedy or selfish, right? The stakes are perceived in your mind, but still they have a genuine impact on your action and, again, your emotion. So, the pattern here is that ultimately it boils down to how you feel. The conversation itself, right? Setting up that meetings and sitting down to a Zoom call or a phone chat, or maybe if you're going into work right now, setting up that one-on-one, face-to-face conversation, that is not physically difficult. It is not physically difficult for you to tell them what you have done, what more you want to do, and why you're ready for it. It's not physically difficult. You can do it. It's emotionally difficult, right? And so when it becomes difficult, there are three things that a lot of people end up doing in spite of themselves, okay? So this is what most people do when things get, especially conversations, engaging in conversations to advocate for what they want gets difficult, okay? It's the 3 trap. Now, before I explain this diagram, I want to first explain this concept of locus of control. Okay, I see we have, just gonna, okay. Okay, somebody asked a question. I'm going to get to your question, Shibani, in just a few minutes, all right? So stick around for that. Okay, so I want to explain this locus of control. This is a concept that I encountered when I first started studying negotiation. It really opened my mind as to why negotiating for yourself, why advocating for yourself, why asking for things that you want can feel so difficult, particularly for women. I don't know if you can read my handwriting here, but locus of control is a psychological term which explains the degree to which people feel that they, not external forces, have control over the outcome of events in their lives and career. And so when your locus of control is internal, when you feel like you are in control, that, you know, that let's say the control dashboard where you have control is inside of you, you feel centered, you feel calm, you feel relaxed, and you're able to engage in conversations. Like, this is how you typically feel when you are engaging in that conversation with your best friend, right? You just feel centered, calm, relaxed. You know that, like, you're in control, like, it's okay, like anything your friend offers, it's all right. You can hear it, you can be with it, it's not a problem, right? You feel centered because your locus of control is inside of you. But what happens is that, first of all, as a society, we are trained to think that other people are in control of our emotions. And so then when we feel like nervous or stressed out about things at work, we worry that we're not in control of our situation because how other people feel is what controls our outcome. See how the locus of control shifts outward when we believe that other people's feelings, other people's emotions, other people's actions control the outcome of our career and our lives, right? And this is very commonplace. I say 99.9% of the world believe that other people's actions, other people's feelings have an impact. They control the outcome of their lives and careers. And so what happens is that when you go to advocate for what you want, because your locus of control goes outside of you, you feel like powerless. Yeah, you feel out of control. And so then when you feel out of control and you feel powerless, what happens is like this, you don't feel centered anymore. You end up avoiding the conversation. And you no longer feel centered, calm, and grounded. Maybe you're feeling kind of nervous, anxious, stressed out. Yeah. And so when you avoid the conversation, right? No one knows what you want. No one can help you. And so that you don't get the result that you want. And so this creates a result that you don't want, but it provides temporary relief to your brain that's telling you that, oh my gosh, you have to avoid this potential rejection because then you're gonna, things are not in your control, okay? So I'm curious to know, like, how many of you can relate to this reaction? Like, you avoid the conversation. And so then you come out of feeling in control of your situation. And sometimes you avoid it and you're like, okay, there's been temporary relief. It's all right. Let me just go on with my life. And you try to regain that, you try to close the loop by just like, going along with the flow, right? But before you get to fully close the loop and before you fully get back to your locus of control, like the underlying issue hasn't been addressed, right? And so then, you start feeling like still you're stressed out, but let's say you didn't get to ask for the promotion, right? And you're feeling kind of bad about it. And somebody's like, well, you're really good at this. Why don't you handle some of this, day-to-day administrative tasks? Yeah. Which isn't about leading the project, but like accommodating other people, right? And so when you still haven't fully closed the loop, what ends up happening is people, especially smart women, we accommodate others. So this is, again, taking yourself out of the internal locus of control, right? So now you have another open loop that hasn't been fully closed yet to bring you back to center. And so this goes on, but really what happens is when you avoid and you accommodate and you just appease, like this kind of like you take flight or you freeze and you just like say yes, against yourself in spite of what you really want, right? What happens is like this underlying issue, the emotions that's driving this reaction hasn't been addressed. And what happens is like the resentment grows. This is something I'm really familiar with in my own career. The resentment grows, right? And so then what happens is, again, you take yourself out and you attack. And maybe, you really blow a fuse and, you get mad at your boss and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said it, but you like lose your temper at work. Or Brene Brown talks about this as like a chandelier effect. If you have people working underneath you, or if you have people at home that they can't fight back, you get mad at them, you get cranky at them, or you attack yourself, you blame yourself, yeah? And so this reaction is something that is really common. You avoid, you accommodate, you attack, and you go further away from feeling in control and centered of your situation, okay? But it doesn't mean that this is like, when you see this and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've done that. I don't want you to think, oh my God, this is so bad, I do it. This is really common. It happens all the time. And it doesn't mean that all is lost. Even if you find yourself in the middle of an avoid, accommodate, attack cycle, it is possible for you to close the loop, fully close the loop, right? It is possible for you to notice and come back to the center so you can close the loop, right? Be centered and like not feel so triggered by what other people are doing and saying. So this is a skill that I teach in my coaching practice. The first thing that you want to be able to do is just raise your self-awareness around the reaction that you have without judging and shaming yourself, right? With a lot of love and compassion, and learning how to see the situation, involving other people as neutral. And what I mean by that is not to like just to pretend like everything's okay and just gloss over what you really feel. It's like so that you can come back to center, so that you can regain control of your brain, of your response, where you truly have power, so that you can come back to your higher functioning negotiation brain and be able to respond to your boss asking why they, if they ask you, why do you think you're ready? What makes you qualify for this, right? Not like freaking out or avoiding the conversation, not to say, okay, whatever you say, boss, or not getting upset and angry at the boss, but being able to come back to center, take a breather and say, okay, Here are my reasons why, right? From a place of centeredness. All right, so in order to sidestep this 3A trap, I have taught these 3 simple steps over and over and over again to my clients, and my best clients apply them into action and they see different results in their careers. Okay, the first thing that they do is not a blank page. The first thing that they do to regain control when they feel tempted to go into the 3A trap is they engage. When there's 70% confidence, they don't wait to feel 100% confident. Remember, the difficult thing is how you feel, right? The emotion, doubt, anxiety, anger. And it's okay if like you're 70% confident, you're like 70%, yeah, I think I can go for this. I think I can sit down and have this conversation. And 30% anxious, and 30% doubt, 30% I'm kind of scared. That's perfectly normal. Because what most people do is most people wait for the right time. Most people wait until they can feel 100% confident. Most people say, oh, I just need to feel comfortable and confident, right? They want to feel like it's okay. But there is never such a thing as the right time. The right time is a myth. And when you just wait until you can feel 100% confident, you'll never engage. You'll never, say the hard things. You'll never do the brave thing of stepping up, speaking up, and asking for what you want. And another thing that most people do is they discount their wins, accomplishment. They also discount their own 70%. If they feel 70%, they're sort of in this like all or nothing thinking, and they think, well, I'm only 70% confident, and I see Jim in accounts, and this guy, he looks like he's 110%. And so what they do is they compare their shabby insides to other people's shiny outside, and they're like, well, I don't feel 110. I assume he's feeling 110, and I don't think I'm 110, so then I must be doing it wrong. And they discount themselves. And like there is this kind of a sick logic, especially in smart, ambitious women. We feel like this is necessary. We feel like being tough on ourselves, like beating ourselves down when we have like 70% of the qualification, 70% of the confidence, 70% of the readiness, 70% of project progress. We think, oh, that's how we get it to 100%. And if it's not 100%, it's not good enough. Yeah? And so then when we don't feel good enough, we never engage. But like, why do we think that? My offer to that is the only reason we feel this is necessary is because social conditioning. It's only because we were taught in school, you got to get an A, you got to get an A plus. If it's not 100%, it's not good enough. Somehow, we've absorbed that messaging through our schooling. Like, many women are excellent students, right? And so we sort of absorb that mindset. We bring that sort of like fixed mindset to our careers and end up not engaging in difficult conversations. So what do smart women do? Smart women dispel the myth that there is such a thing as the right time. There is such a thing as 100% confidence. They dispel the myth of all or nothing thinking. They dispel the myth of tiara syndrome. Okay, I drew this, and as soon as I drew it, I'm like, that looks more like a clown's hat than a tiara. I don't know if you're familiar with this concept, tiara syndrome. It is something that a negotiation scholar who specializes in women's negotiation skills came up with. I think her name is Carol Frolinger. And the tiara syndrome is like, we believe that if we just keep our heads down and do good work, a tiara will land on our heads, right? It's a lot like, if we just keep our heads down and get an A, then somebody's going to prove our worth, right? And the tiara never comes, right? Tiara never comes because it's a myth. It doesn't happen that way. We know that we have to advocate, we have to speak up, and we have to promote ourselves for people to be like, oh, that's what she's been doing. Because the reason is everyone else is busy doing their own thing. It's not that they don't think you're worth it. It's not that, they don't respect you. It's just because people are busy in their own stuff that they don't know how good a job you're doing. So it's not about like waiting for the tiara to land on your head. It's about going out there and claiming it for your own, because we all, I forget who said this. I think it was, I think this is a song. I think this is what's her name? I think this is a Taylor Swift song. I'm going to quote a Taylor Swift song, but we are all queens and we all have our crowns. Okay, so just claim it. All right. And smart women, what they do is they build evidence. They build evidence. I'll write that. They build evidence for their success. They build evidence for their qualification. They build evidence for the value they bring intentionally. They don't wait, they don't discount. They're like, okay, I'm at 70%. This is amazing, okay? So where else, what else is the 71%? They go and build evidence. And that could look like keeping a log of your wins. Firing up a Google Doc, and once a week, just jotting down, okay, here's the win, here's what I accomplished, this is what I got done, okay? This is the praise that I received. They build evidence for themselves, and they talk to themselves kindly. They talk kindly to themselves. They don't beat themselves down. They don't discount themselves. They talk kindly to themselves. There is a fascinating research by Stony Brook University and Carnegie Mellon. These two women negotiation researchers, they did this independent study, and they found out that when women prepared ahead of a negotiation, a mock negotiation, as if they were going to do it for their best friends, as if they were going to advocate on behalf of somebody else, their outcomes were much better. And they compare that to men's negotiation outcomes, and women's outcomes exceeded the men's, even when men did the same preparation of preparing as if they were going to advocate for their friend. So take that in, talk nicely to yourself, talk kindly to yourself, talk about you and to you as if you are your own best friend, okay? And if that is really hard for you, coaching can help for sure. I hope my clients do that every week, but also you can just think about, okay, who is somebody who knows me, who trusts me? Write their name down on paper and think about, like, what would they say are my best qualities? How would they champion for me? And then champion for you that way, even when you're only 70% confident. Because remember, the gender gap is like what, 20, 25%? So your 70% is most likely somebody else's 95%. Okay, adjust accordingly. All right, let's move on. Okay, and also the second thing, I forgot to write number 2 here. The second thing that smart women do is ask, what do we both really want? This is a question they ask themselves, okay? So as Eloise commented, like the first thing you gotta do is you gotta be aware of what you really want, right? So that you can advocate for it. But a lot of people are vague about what they really want, okay? And so they show up to these conversations making vague requests, and they get vague responses in return, and then they're like, oh, that wasn't all that satisfying. I'm not really sure what to do next, right? Or sometimes they confuse what they think they should want with what they really honestly want, right? So my story about this is about 6 years ago, I worked as a director of operations for a tech startup. And I thought I should want to become a business development person. I thought that's what I should want because, like, yeah, business development people, they make more money and it sounds more prestigious, and like operations, I don't know, I think people think it's kind of like boring back office work. And so I thought I should want to become a business development person. And so when I had my one-on-one with my direct boss, I'm like, I'm kind of interested in becoming a biz dev person. That's what he was doing. But I wasn't really genuine about that. It wasn't really what I honestly wanted. I mean, obviously, I honestly wanted to become a coach, right? I just didn't know it back then. And so when you ask for what you should want, not what you do want, right, you don't have the outcome that you want. Or also you think that other people, your boss, should want certain things for you. In other words, you make an assumption about what the boss should do or what other people should do. Like I had a client who assumed that a colleague of hers should just like give her all the information in a role where she didn't have the role yet, but she was trying to get into this new role, program management role. And she assumed that other people should give her the information. But, should they? I don't know. Do people do what they should do? Often not, right? We have to be able to differentiate between what people actually do and what you think they should do. And that differentiation will open up so much clarity, and then you get so much more, you get more clarity about like, how can we move forward together? What do you both really want, right? And so smart women, what they do differently is they ask themselves first, what do I really want specifically, right? Do I want to be just like acknowledged for having a good attitude? Is that what I really want? Or do I specifically want to be acknowledged for the results I generate? Or do I specifically want to be known for generating better outcomes? Like, do I specifically want to be known for being innovative and coming up with new ideas, right? And also, what you want to ask yourself, like, what do I honestly want, but what do they also honestly want? This is a key question that's going to have like a huge ripple effect on how you show up to conversations big and small, and how you lead in those conversations, okay? One of my clients, she asked herself, okay, what do both sides really want? She was engaging in a leadership meeting, and she got invited to the meeting with the CEO of the company, okay? And instead of like asking, what should they want? What do I assume they want, right? Like people, you would assume like, oh, they want to know like all the details, and they want like all the nitty gritty so that they know we're not messing anything up. No, she's like, what does my CEO honestly want, really specifically? And then she realized what the CEO really honestly wants is he wants his concerns like addressed. She knows that he has concerns about other people in the company asking about external validation for a particular project. And so when she got really specific about what the CEO honestly wants, she was able to, go into that meeting, speak up and say, hey, CEO, I understand like what your concern is. And let me just first address that your concerns have been met by X, Y, and Z, right? She got super specific. We have external consultants look at this, and we have validation from our team abroad. We have addressed what you honestly and specifically want, right? And she knew that, they don't really need, the CEO doesn't really need like a nitty-gritty rundown. And her being able to address his concerns in that way got the CEO's attention, and she got feedback from her team leads. They were like, wow, you did a really bang up job, you know, giving that update. And even through how you show up to these conversations, even when you're not just asking for what you want, when you do ask yourself, what do we both really specifically want, you're able to create that imprint of the kind of leader that you are. Okay, so you ask questions, right? You ask yourself, you ask them, but you're willing to ask around. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you the one question that truly blew my client's mind when I presented this. I shared this question with her. Okay, and I promise you, if you are open to asking this question to you and addressing it, it will change your career results. Okay, here it is. The question is, what keeps my boss's boss up at night? What do they really want? What do they worry about? Like, what is the bigger picture at this company, right? And what do the higher senior level leaders worry about? What are they, you know, staying up concerned about? What do they really want? And how can I address it? And how can I tie that to what I want? Okay. So if you want to get promoted, you want to understand what keeps my boss's bosses up at night, right? If you work in healthcare industry and the trends are that less and less people are subscribing to, I don't know, say pharmacy sales, medicine sales are down because people are not buying more medicine. How can you address that? How can you tell them about the specific results that you're creating in your role right now? And how can you tie that to the impact that will have to address what they most care about? So take, for example, you are working in, I'm just going to make this up, pharmaceutical sales, and you can tell them about the result that you're generating now, which is going to increase sales through webinars. You're going to do more virtual training, right? And that is going to create the impact of us, increasing sales even when there's a pandemic, even when people are not meeting face to face, okay? All right. So number 3, once you have all of this, these questions addressed, simple, you commit to solutions. Remember, the reason why these conversations get difficult is because, you know, there are high stakes. And what most people do when the stakes are high is they quit, because that's the easiest thing to do. Right? And immediately your brain has relief from feeling the worry, the doubt, the concern, the anxiety. Or instead of quitting, people get really greedy about how. Like, exactly how am I going to get promoted? Exactly how will, you know, my pay increase happen? Exactly how will everyone else give me the credit that I deserve? Or exactly how will my job be safe even when I, you know, work part-time or work less hours, right? And then when you get into how greed, like, it's not about the solution, you're really like getting attached to the outcome, a very specific outcome. And when you're in how greed, and you can't find out exactly how it's done, you freeze, or you avoid, or you quit. When you don't, because you think knowing exactly how it gets done, how you get what you want, is how you, there's so many hows in that sentence. I kind of lost my track. But I think you get my drift, right? When you get greedy about exactly how it happens, it does not put you in a position of power, because you haven't committed to solutions that address what both sides really want. So here's what smart women do. This is what most people do. What smart women do is they commit. I looked up the definition of the word commit, and commit takes taking action with trust. So smart women trust themselves. Smart women trust the vision they have for themselves, for their careers. They trust in the value that they're adding with their offers, okay? Offers are when you offer a solution that addresses what you really want and what the other side really wants, what the employer really wants. And you offer it as a solution that adds value. And here's another thing. When you make offers, people get to say no. Like an offer, you say, hey, would you like me to take this project on, right? And work at this capacity so that we can address these specific concerns that the company has, right? Somebody can say no. Your boss can say no. Other teammates can say no, right? That is what is supposed to happen, right? And so I want to share with you the one formula, okay, that will, the one formula to becoming unstoppable. All right. So offer specific solutions that address what both sides want, plus your willingness to hear no makes you unstoppable, okay? The more you're willing to hear no, the more power you have. And you become more willing to hear no when you're willing to try one possible solution at a time. It's not about knowing exactly how you get there, but what if you can identify one possible solution and you're willing to commit to asking if this adds value, you're willing to commit to implementing this solution, you're willing to commit to evaluating whether the solution works, and then from there, making a different decision or maybe offering a different solution, right? So this is where you are. This is where you end up, your goal, right? And here's where you are. And when you get clarity around what is the solution that addresses what both sides want, you can arrive at one possible solution. And maybe that's like, you know, let me become, if you want to get promoted, like it's like, let me try becoming, let me try like shadowing somebody in this role for the next 3 months. Or let me try and have conversations with different executives in this organization to find out what would be the best way to drive my career forward. That could be one possible solution. There are endless solutions, right? The one that's perfect for you, you just gotta be willing to test it for yourself. All right. So when, I just want to summarize this one more time. You offer specific solutions, you're willing to hear no, and you're willing to be like, okay, this no doesn't mean anything negative or personal about me. It's just me on my journey to finding out what works, okay? And so when you're willing to hear no, you're willing to try every solution. And if this one doesn't try, you offer a different solution, right? And then you take one step at a time, and that's how you achieve at your goal. What I love about this is that this really, for me, defines leadership. Leadership is going first without knowing the how. Like we don't know exactly what it takes to get all the way to the goal, but you go first. And that could be you offering solutions in the context of your conversations, right? And you're willing to test it, you're willing to implement it, you're willing to evaluate it, then make another decision about a different possible solution. All right. So to summarize, these are the 3 simple steps that smart women take, ambitious women take to advocate for themselves and create results. They engage when they're 70% ready. They don't wait for 100%. They dispel the myth of the tiara syndrome. They dispel the myth of the perfect timing, okay? They ask, what do we both really want? And they ask, what do my boss's boss worry about? And they get to work on addressing that, okay? They commit to solutions. And that solution could be maybe, you know, they're thinking, okay, my boss is not really giving me the kind of answers that I'm looking for. Maybe I ask around my boss. Maybe I ask my skip level boss. Maybe I engage in conversations. I mean, there are so many different kinds of solutions that you can try, but you commit to taking action. Okay, so having said that, let's come back to the 5-point conversation framework, okay? So you're gonna show up to this conversation with open curiosity. You're open and you're curious about what do they really want? What do they honestly and specifically want? And then when you understand the result that your boss wants, your employer wants, then you're able to, I sort of made a mistake here, but then you're able to connect your ask to the result they want, and you're able to articulate the impacts of that so they see, they get, oh yeah, this really helps, this really adds value. But you're also willing to hear no and brainstorm for possible solutions. And from there, you offer specific solutions and next steps. So somebody asked, is it okay to ask your boss for reasons why they think you're not ready? Why not? If you're open and curious, right? If they tell you, I don't think you're ready, you can ask them, okay, what are your thoughts about that? What do you think it will take for me to become ready? What specific steps would you like me to take? What specific KPI or metrics would you like to see change so that I can become ready? Absolutely. Okay, any questions so far? Right. Okay, so if you enjoy this, I want to invite you to book your free consult. If you would like support in implementing those 3 steps, and if you want to change the results you have in your career, you're invited to book a free hour-long conversation with me. Because I know, I just shared a lot of stories with you, but sometimes you want to know exactly what am I missing? What is the blind spot that I don't see for myself? Like we all have them, but we don't know that we have them until somebody points them out. So if you'd like to identify your own blind spot where maybe, unwittingly you are falling into the 3A trap, or where you're struggling to get through and get heard, or where you're struggling to really generate self-confidence to take action when you're 70% ready. Let's identify those blind spots so that you can address them. Or maybe you want to build your custom plan, right? Custom action plan for how to get to the end goal that you want in your career. Or you want to get to the root cause of your feelings, right? The reason why our feelings are so important is because they drive all of our actions. And this is something that negotiation experts agree on, right? In fact, MIT negotiation professor Jared Curran says that emotions are the most important factor in a negotiation. How you feel about yourself, how you feel about the other side, how you feel about the prospect, the process, right? I'll help you get to the root cause of your feeling so that you can, get to neutral when you feel triggered or stressed out or frustrated, too frustrated to take action. Let's get to the root cause of your feeling, again, not so that you appease and just get passive, but so that you can get back to your center. You can come back to your internal locus of control, take control of the situation where you can, and access your higher thinking brain. Or perhaps you want to create a vision for your future. Maybe you want to get more clear about the direction you want to take in your career because you got this. You can take these steps, right? It's just a matter of getting more clear on what you do truly want. Okay, you know that you can address what people really want. You know that you can add value. You know that you can engage at 70%. You know that you can engage in conversations with stakeholders, with leaders, with peers. But you just want to get really clear about what it is that you want, right? I will help you in a free hour-long consultation. I work with clients one-on-one. on a 6-month engagement, and I help them build self-confidence, and I help them build specific custom strategy. I help them implement it, and I help them hold themselves accountable so that they achieve the results that they most want. So you're welcome to shoot me an email. Oh, you can see it. It's jamie@jamieleecoach.com, or you can go to my Calendly link directly and book your free consult. All right. So if you have any questions about the content, or if you have any questions about the consult, now would be the time. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your time, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.